Welcome to today's lesson, and we're going to talk about fast speech because often people tell me that, like, when they're listening to my lessons, it's easy to understand and follow along, but then if they start watching a movie or TV show, it becomes a lot more challenging. And I think that's because when you're listening to these more informal situations, such as a movie or TV show, people will, yeah, they speak faster or they use a lot more connected speech or their intonation and emphasis. And it does make it a little more challenging to understand. So what I want to do is I want to look at some simple sentences. We're going to do a deep dive and talk about what's going on so that you have a better understanding as to why people sound the way they do. And of course, I want you to participate in the lesson and say these sentences out loud. That's what this is all about. This is to help give you a little bit of speaking practice. And we're going to practice this several times, and then we will say this dialogue together at the end. But to start things out, all I want you to do is just listen to me say this dialogue, and then we're going to look at one at a time and talk about everything that's happening. So the dialogue goes, "Did you remember to go to the meeting? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. You're going to get an earful for this. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse." So I think if I say that, especially since you're able to read it, it's pretty simple. You can follow along. But if you were listening to somebody else say this and maybe you didn't even have the visual part or you don't have subtitles, it may make it a little more challenging. So let's look at what's going on. And the first thing that we're going to look at is this question right here. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you remember to go to the meeting? So I'll break it down. And the first thing I want to talk about is assimilation. Did you? So assimilation is when you have two sounds, they blend together to create a new sound. In this case, the D and Y, that D and Y sounds, they blend together and you get this slight J. It's not something that you have to force. As you transition from one sound to the next, it'll just occur naturally. This does not mean you're always going to hear this. Somebody could say, "Did you?" But often when people are asking this question, did you? Did you? Did you remember? So instead of to, it actually has two different pronunciations, a strong and a weak form. Did you remember to? But also I want to point out that I am going to pronounce this as a flap T. So it's going to sound like a soft D. And this happens with the American accent when the T may follow the sound. I gave you an example with that other word when I say started, started. You hear a D sound instead of a T, started. In this case, remembered, remembered. Can you hear that D, that flap T? Did you remember to go to the meeting? Go to the. I wanted to isolate this phrase because you often hear this in just everyday conversation. So the T in to, this time it comes between two vowel sounds. And once again, with the American accent, because I'm from the US, I'm going to pronounce it as a flap T. So it's going to sound like go to the, go to the, go to the. Can you hear that flap T again? Go to the. And I said it's very common. Go to the gym, go to the mall, go to the restaurant, or in this case, go to the meeting. So let's put all of this together. I've given you the phonetic spelling up above, and you can see, I'll say it slowly, and I want you to repeat after me. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Let's say it again, slowly. Did you remember to go to the meeting? And then if I want to speed it up, again, just repeat after me. Did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you remember to go to the meeting? All right, perfect. I trust that you are practicing your speaking skills saying this out loud. Now, of course, this is not something you should ever feel like you have to do. I know sometimes people are interested more in a certain accent, whether it's in the US or the UK, but I think in general, this is going to help with your listening comprehension. And that is how I started this whole lesson, talking about trying to understand fast speech. Everybody has different speaking goals. You should never feel like you need to speak with one accent or the other. The most important thing is that we understand each other. Did you remember to go to the meeting? And I hope that you remember to join my speaking course if you would like to practice and improve your speaking skills. So the course is for intermediate to advanced speakers. It's all about helping you speak confidently, speak clearly, and speak naturally. You can check out the link down below in the description. If you'd like to learn more about the course, learn more about class times and availability, you can check that out down below. These are some of the things that we talk about in the course. We start out with something related to pronunciation or connected speech, and often we end up talking about connected speech, some of the very same things that we're practicing right now, and we do that at the beginning of each lesson. Let's look at the next sentence. I'll say it quickly and then we'll talk about what's going on. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. In case you're unfamiliar with that expression, to slip someone's mind, people would use this when they want to say that, well, I forgot this. I forgot to do something. And really, you are going to end up using it in the past because you're talking about something that's already happened. You forgot to do it, and you can say, well, it slipped my mind. It completely slipped my mind. So let's see what's happening. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. Except I'm not going to pronounce the individual words just like that. I'm going to say, I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. So once again, what's happening here? I was going to. We can reduce going to gonna. I was gonna. It's a very common reduction. I think this is really super common in just casual conversation. Certain reductions like gonna, wanna, and have to. So I was gonna go, but it. Linking may occur. This is another very common part of connected speech. It's when we link the final consonant sound of one word with the beginning vowel sound of the next word. So, but, it ends with a T. And once again, you're going to hear me pronounce it as a flap T because it comes between those two vowel sounds. But it, but it, but it slipped my mind. Slipped. Now that ED, because the p, it's a voiceless sound, normally that ED would have a T sound, slipped, slipped. But in this case, that T sound is going to elide. Elision is when sounds or syllables get removed, all right? You don't even hear them. And this may occur with the T or D sounds when they come between two consonants. And if they're in a consonant cluster, it's elide. It's almost like you have a silent letter there. So even if I say the phrase, you're not going to hear that ED, that T. Slip my mind, slip my mind. But it slipped my mind. Once again, let's practice. I want to say this slowly, and I want you to repeat after me. Practice your speaking skills. And these, you can see the phonetic spelling. These are the things that we're highlighting in this sentence. So let's say it slowly. I was gonna go, but it slipped my mind. One more time slowly. I was gonna go, but it slipped my mind. Now, you know what we're going to do. Let's speed things up. I think, again, we're practicing this, your speaking skills, but I think as you kind of get a feel for it, it's going to help your comprehension. So let's say it quickly. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I want you to say it one more time. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. All right, excellent. So let's keep going. The response. Again, I'll say it like I normally would if I were in this situation. You're going to get an earful for this. You're going to get an earful for this. Once again, if you're unfamiliar with that expression, to get an earful, it's an informal, expression. It's an idiom. And it is just when someone speaks angrily to you and they basically tell you what they think. So, for example, if you make a mistake and you're like, oh no, I'm going to get an earful. So if you are getting an earful, somebody is speaking angrily to you. You may also hear people use this with the verb give, to give someone an earful. And in that situation, you are speaking angrily to someone else. Let's say that somebody broke your favorite cup and you'd say, well, I'm going to give my friend an earful for that. I'm going to give my friend an earful. You're going to complain angrily to this person, whether you give somebody an earful or you're going to get an earful. I just wanted to clarify that so that it's easy to understand before we practice and talk about what's going on. So you're going to, I've already talked about that reduction, extremely common, you're gonna. If you are someone who thinks, well, I would like to start using more, connected speech, just speak a little more naturally. Reductions, this is a great starting point. Many of the people that I work with already, I think are at a level and they feel comfortable using them, but this is a great starting point because you're often going to use the phrase going to. And if we follow it with a verb, we can reduce it. Gonna go, gonna play, gonna dance. So this is a great starting point if you're looking to, start using some of these more casual, informal parts of speaking it's going to help you sound a bit more natural. Get an earful. I can link that whole phrase together. Get an earful. That final T and get, once again, you hear me pronouncing that flap T. It sounds like a soft D. Get an earful. Get an earful. For. Now, I know when people think of reductions, you think of gonna, wanna, have to, and we're removing certain sounds. But there are some words, individual words, that we can also reduce. And for is one of them. When I stress it, it sounds like I'm saying the number, for. But often, because this is a function word, it gets unstressed. And when it's unstressed, the vowel sound's going to change. It gets reduced. And in this case, it may sound a little more like fur. Fur. It's a much softer sound because I'm not really going to emphasize this word. So it's going to sound like you're going to get an earful for this. You're going to get an earful for this. So let's practice. Again, I want you to say it with me. If you're practicing, you can let me know by hitting that like button. That tells me that, okay, you guys are actually working on your speaking skills right now. That's what this is all about. So I'll say it slowly, and I want you to repeat after me. Ready? You're gonna get an earful for this. Let's say it one more time. You're gonna get an earful for this. Okay, now let's say it a little faster. Again, get comfortable with that fast speech. Repeat after me. You're gonna get an earful for this. Again, you're gonna get an earful for this. Okay, I hope that you never really get an earful for anything, but again, this is I wanted to throw that vocabulary in there as well. Now, after this, in our little dialogue, we have this person says, well, I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. So let's break this down and talk about what's going on. So I'm going to. I've already mentioned how common going to is, and it gets reduced to gonna. I'm gonna. That's very common. Now, The reason why I have included I'm in there, because we can actually reduce that entire phrase. This is not something that you have to do. When I've talked about this and I've taught this, of course people tell me that they're comfortable using gonna, but reducing I'm gonna to I'm gonna, maybe it doesn't feel very comfortable. And in that case, it's, again, don't feel like you have to do it. But this is something that you will likely hear. If somebody, instead of saying I'm gonna, think, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to the mall. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna get a coffee. And you hear that I'm gonna. Have to, we can reduce that as well. Another common reduction, have to. Doing a lot of talking. Let me just get a quick sip of water. So you see up top there that I'm gonna, 3 syllables, and you could really run through that phrase, I'm gonna, and follow it with the other reduction, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to come up with an excuse. We can link those 2 different phrases. So come up with is a 3-word phrasal verb. And often with phrasal verbs, there is a lot of linking because the main verb will end with a consonant sound, and then you have a particle that begins with a vowel sound. So phrasal verbs, linking occurs quite often. But in this case, it's a 3-word phrasal verb. To come up with something is to create or think of. You could come up with a story, or in this case, somebody needs to come up with an excuse. So come up, we can link that phrase together. You can hear me. It's like I'm moving that consonant sound over. Come up. With then. With then. I can link that with, that voiceless TH sound, with then excuse. And that n sound, I'm moving over to excuse. Come up with an excuse. Come up with an excuse. And you're really just running right through those 2 phrases. So we'll put it all together, and I want you to repeat after me. Let's say it slowly, and then we're going to speed it up, and then I want to practice everything together. We're going to go back, and we're going to look at that dialogue. So I want you to repeat after me. Say this out loud. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. One more time. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. Let's say it faster now at more of a normal speed. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. Again, I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. Okay, now let's put it all together because we started out with this dialogue right here. And this is what I want to practice. So once again, I'm gonna, there's that I'm gonna. Every time I talk about I'm gonna, I then start noticing every time I use the phrase I'm gonna. So I'm gonna say the whole dialogue right now. So all I want you to do is listen, and I'm gonna say it. And then I want to practice this. And one person, like I'll be A, you be B, and then we're gonna switch. Again, the idea is to say it out loud. Try to think about those things that we talked about. So I'll say it, not too fast right now. Did you remember to go to the meeting? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. You're going to get an earful for this. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. So you see the conversation that's taking place. I think you understand the situation at work. Somebody missed a meeting and it's a problem. And you're going to, the person, I guess they don't want to tell their boss, their supervisor, and that's why they say, look, yeah, I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. So let's practice this together. And I think part of the reason I want to practice this and say this is to help you work on your pacing, because I want to try to treat this as though it's a natural conversation. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of time to say your line, and then I'm going to say mine and continue. So let's start out. I am going to say A. I want you to say B, and we'll just go through this dialogue. Are you ready? Did you remember to go to the meeting? You're going to get an earful for this. Okay, good. Again, I trust that you're saying this out loud. Now, let's switch. I want you to say A and I am going to say B. So you can begin right now. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. All right. Well done. Well done. Now, just out of curiosity, I would like to know if you were actually participating in the lesson. So it's just a simple question, all right? Were you participating and practicing your speaking skills? Okay? Yes, no. And I started the poll right now. And hopefully, again, these are interactive lessons. I hope that you're able to look at this and really try to pronounce this and say these sentences out loud while using these different parts of connected speech. To go through them very quickly. And let's see, where is it? All right. So I'll just go through these slides. Remember that first question, did you? Did you remember to go to the meeting? You can almost hear that melody as well if I were to emphasize, did you remember to go to the meeting? Did you remember to go to the meeting? And again, English is a stress time language, so it sounds a bit musical. So that was the first question. The next one was actually right here. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. Then our next sentence, you're going to get an earful for this. I'm telling somebody they made a mistake, and well, you're going to get an earful for this. And then finally, our last sentence, I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. We put all of that together, we have our dialogue. Did you remember to go to the meeting? I was going to go, but it slipped my mind. You're going to get an earful for this. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. If you want, go back, practice this. Try it. You don't have to speak fast at the beginning. Speak, take your time. We were trying to say some of these slowly at the beginning when I said repeat after me. It's just kind of building your comfort level when it comes to using reductions, when it comes to linking phrases or assimilation, elision, and some of those other parts of connected speech. Now, I'm pleased to see that most of you were actually practicing and participating with me. About 10% of you were not. And I felt, I can't believe it. I'm talking to myself then in that case. It's all right. But hopefully, as we go through and look at some of these things, and you're even able to practice that, the next time you're watching a movie or TV show and they're just speaking incredibly fast, you're going to start to recognize some of these phrases. When somebody says, instead of I'm going to or I'm gonna, you're going to recognize when somebody says I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And it does take time. But this is just kind of the building blocks for understanding fast speech, which I think is very common, especially in places like the US, when you're watching movies, TV shows, or you're just out on the street having a conversation and trying to keep up with what somebody is saying. If you enjoyed the lesson, you please let me know, hitting that like button. You can also write to me in the comments. I love hearing from you. That'll tell me maybe I should do some more of these lessons. And if you're interested in joining my speaking course, check out the link down below in the description. I really wasn't able to give too many shout outs today, so I'll give some right now. Lali, great to see you. As always, Rafaela, ZSB, Takayo, nice to see you. Talal, Angela, excellent. I will be back for another lesson very shortly. Again, with all of these lessons, my goal is that you just learn something new. I don't want to overwhelm you. Hopefully, you were familiar with some of this already because I've done lessons like these in the past, but hopefully it was new. And as you continue to practice, you will continue to improve and you'll get a little bit better each time we keep going through these. And that is the goal. Learning a language, it's a long-term play. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you very soon for another lesson in the future. So long.